Welcome to this episode of First Home Hustle. I'm Kim McCarty.
And I'm Dave Stahl.
All right, so we're going to start a new series, and I thought it would be fun to start with first-time homebuyers that are just getting started. So I actually met Gabriel and Destiny at an open house that they just happened to pop into of one of our listings, and we started chatting, and we started talking about the process of buying your first home. So what we did first was sit down at the office and just go through kind of, what money you're going to need up front, what it's going to look like. But then the next step is to get approved with a lender. So that's kind of the next step we did. So why don't you guys kind of chat about the process that you guys went through, talking about what you guys are wanting to do, what kind of money it looks like monthly, because I know that we're trying to stay in a budget, right? So kind of talk about the process when you talk to them for the first time about getting approved.
We talked about numbers. No, I mean, what we typically do, and this is what I do, is like 95% of people, unless they like pretend they know more than me. But what we normally do is we go through what interest rates look like on different programs, what down payments look like, what payments look like. And every time I do a pre-approval, unless you bring a property to me, I work from a very pessimistic viewpoint. And I do that because at the end of the day, if I give somebody a pre-approval letter, the last thing I want to happen is them to come back to me and go, we found it. This is the one. Mm-hmm. And then they give me taxes and insurance and, wow, I underestimated everything. And now they don't qualify.
Right.
So, and I think that when we first spoke about that, I told you what I was doing with those numbers. And initially there's some shock of, really, is it that much? And no, it's typically not. Mm-hmm. But I try to be pessimistic with those numbers for that very reason. So now the second time we talked, we're like, okay, we got some houses now. Yeah. What do those look like?
Right.
And each one of them, I think we did yesterday we did like 10 or 12.
Yesterday, yeah, it was 10.
Yeah.
10.
So, and I'm not opposed to doing that because at the end of the day, we were trying to find out, okay, at this price point, what's it look like? At this price point, what's it look like? And I think we came up with the answer of, from a varying of about $30,000, that the total difference was $200.
Yeah,
give or take.
Give or take.
And I think that's what we were trying to figure out. Right?
Yeah, that with the buy down option, all of that. Yeah.
Right. So a lot
of numbers. Yeah, they're important.
I mean, you're going to pay the payment. You got to know what you're walking into, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we were looking at, and we're talking about new construction, existing, and there's just a lot of information that some people are happy to digest it, like you are, and some people are just like, tell me the bottom line when we're done.
Yeah.
And I like the perspective of going through all those details because that's part of what I like about what I do is the numbers. And so it's good that you like numbers because we get along with that.
Yeah.
Very analytical. Yeah.
So why don't you guys kind of tell us what you have experienced from the meeting me at the open house to kind of, we already have gone out and looked at a few houses, new construction, and how you're feeling about the process so far.
Would you like to start?
Yeah. So I guess just speaking on my point of view of it, I think we have talked about, getting a home soon and what that might look like. But just didn't really know what that timeline might look like. So we went to the open house. It was a surprise for me.
Right.
He found the house and took me.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
And then I think I'm really grateful that we met you because, being first-time home buyers, we've never done any of this before. I feel like he knows a lot more about numbers and stuff than I do, thankfully. Right. Which he's going to take care of all that. So
right.
No worries. But, just I haven't done this before.
Right.
And so I don't know anything about what to look for, what to expect going into it. And I just feel like meeting you kind of took us along and you so far have made the process so easy to understand because it can be such a scary thing.
For sure.
You're putting down your money, you're investing into this property and buying a first home.
Right.
You want it to be a good home and a smooth, easy process. And I feel like that's what we've had so far.
Awesome.
So that's my experience of it.
Okay. Gabriel, what's yours?
Yeah. So
I have a question. Let's go backwards. So like one day you guys were just like talking like, maybe we should buy a house. And then like the next day you said, oh, I found an open house. Let's go.
Not quite.
There's a little more detail.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite transparent, we had a very serious conversation about, where our future was going living wise, because what we're sitting at job wise right now, we're looking at a great potential of replacing her income by the end of the year to where we can actually start having kids, because she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I'd love for her to be a stay-at-home mom too. But with that, we also don't want to have to raise our kids in an apartment complex if we don't have to.
Yeah.
So that's what really started that whole conversation in general. And that's how we decided where our date night, or what I decided our date night was going to be.
That was the date day?
Yeah. It was like our date
Yeah,
day.
we went to, I want to say 3 different open houses, but we were just lucky enough because Kim was at our first one.
Yeah.
And me being an analytical buyer type versus like aggressive, amiable, and expressive.
Yeah.
That was just a very good interaction to have on the front end. And then she was also the only one who's like, hey, let's sit down for a solid hour and go over some stuff. And that's where we really got hooked on Kim. And then she introduced me to you, Dave.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I think, so many times first-time home buyers, they do just start going through open houses. And, most agents that are at those open houses, they're just looking to get you quick and put you in something. And you guys were very honest about, hey, this may not be a quick process for us. And I'm like, I'll be here. Hopefully, God willing, I'll still be here. And when you're ready to buy a house, we're ready to help you. So we're not in a hurry, and we want you to feel good about the house that you're in. And we also talked a lot about this being your very first home, maybe holding this property and starting it as an investment opportunity. So we talked a lot about that too. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about, the thought process you had after we spoke about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've always been future planners.
Yeah.
Not just thinking 1 year down the road, but what decision are we going to make that's going to put us ahead 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're very serious about finding good property that we can raise our kids in. But then after that, be able to be a really good growing area to where people will want to rent the space out as that area is developing, so that we can have the cash flow from that as well, just to diversify our income a little bit more, but also provide a good house where we're not going to be doing any sort of malpractice I've been seeing throughout the rental space, really, like seeing houses that are going for $3,500 a month when the mortgage payment's well more than half that, or well less than half that rather.
Yeah.
So just to be able to do that for other families, like we wish we would have been able to here.
Right.
But then also develop that income flow as well.
Okay. All right. I love that for first-time home buyers. I wish that someone had really educated us, and I told you guys that. I think that if someone had really educated us when we bought our first house for $150,000, if we'd only held that property, where would it have been today, right? Even our second property, but no one really educated us on that. And so that's just been a goal for me, is to educate you guys. You may not hold it, but no matter what, we want to put you in the best piece of real estate that your money can buy you today, right? So that is my goal. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, we go out and we start looking at houses. So we go out and we look at houses last weekend. How did you feel after that?
Excited.
Excited. Okay.
I think because, we've talked about houses, we've looked at houses online, but that was the first time that we've actually looked at the numbers and looked at, okay, what can this get us? And seeing it in person, it was exciting for me.
Okay.
Seeing what's out there.
How about for you?
Yeah, so I actually read in a book called The Pursuit by Dexter Yeager, phenomenal businessman, may he rest in peace. He changed so many lives. But in The Pursuit, he talks about actually being able to go out and touch what you're wanting, not just to have it on a dream board, but be able to touch it. And that was very surreal for us, knowing that this is coming right around the corner.
Right.
Now, it may not be next month, may not be until the end of the year.
Right.
But it's right there.
Right.
And then Dave and I talked about, not taking that so far to make an emotional decision to where you're now putting yourself in a bad spot, which is also why we had to go through our financial advisor and really just life coach and all that stuff, just to make sure that we're not heading down an emotional decision, that we're going to be setting ourselves up for success when it comes to time for that decision. So
I think that's important, because you guys did talk a lot about timing and the market that we're currently in. We don't know where the interest rate's going, but we're kind of trying to be proactive about the market, but not also put you in a situation where you're buying emotionally or we're rushing you in that decision. So why don't you kind of talk briefly about how you looked at those numbers today versus what we think might happen in the future?
Well, those numbers changed in my head on Sunday.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say this.
So I want to backtrack for just a second about first-time home buyers and rushing in, right? So your whole goal in going to your financial planner or advisor was to get good advice as to the timing of when you should do it. And your advisor told you what? Did he tell you that you needed to worry a lot about payment, or what was he telling you?
No, the primary thing was making sure our savings were on track. We needed to make sure that we had 6 months of living expenses in our savings account just in case crap hit the fan, just at any point in time.
Okay.
Which is great advice. Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any advice in terms of the housing market. That's not his forte. So it's just, hey, let's make sure we're in a good financial spot before we start adding on to the living expenses if you don't already have 6 months in your current living expenses.
So, and I think that's really great advice if you have the ability to do that. We've talked about in prior episodes ability to save and how people go about doing that, and actually where they get to over that same period of time, and it's not the same ability that you have to save.
I think you're a saver, so we feel confident that you will do what you need to do to get to your 6 months.
Right.
Most people, when they tell us we're going to wait a year when we have more money, when we revisit a year later, guess what? They've only saved what we figured like $1,200 because they aren't good savers.
Right.
So people who are good savers and tell me we're going to wait until we have 6 months, like you have a goal, 6 months worth of, and I already know that you guys are well on your way to that 6 months, right?
Right.
So we know this. So that's what Dave and I have experienced, and that's kind of other episodes that we've talked about, is that when people tell us that, we look at it and go, it's probably not best for you to wait, because if you wait, then here's what we know. Statistically, you're not going to save enough money, first. Second, the market's prices, even if we have a normal appreciation, will go between 3 and 5%. So the prices will go up. That's equity that you've lost, right, in an opportunity that you missed out on. And we don't know what the interest rates are going to do, but right now we know where they are. But we know that appraisal or appreciation.
We did math of being pessimistic, and I think our pessimistic view, we were looking at a $400,000 house, and we estimated if it only went up in value by 3%. Isn't that what we talked about?
Yes.
And if interest rates went down by 1%, where's that put the payment? And I think that for that scenario, just based upon 3% appreciation, I think our payment was probably $30 or $50 less.
Wow.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was very minimal, but at the same time, not to scare people away with the term pessimistic, I'm maybe more conservative.
Yeah.
Like with worst case scenario type of scenarios. So it's just like it was one of those things where it was an eye opener that yes, it makes a minimal type of difference, but we still need to keep our eyes on it so it doesn't slip away.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
Well, and it may get to a point where, well, maybe Dave calls you or I call you and go, hey guys, are you close to your 6 months? Because we got to jump now. You know, I'm seeing prices go up really quickly. Interest rates have gone up a little bit or down a little bit, but it's the competition for you guys because you're first-time home buyers. So that's why new construction is actually probably a little easier for you guys for two reasons. First, first-time home buyers, right? So we don't want to spend any cash in a multiple offer situation and having to guarantee if the house doesn't appraise. And we touched on that when we met the other day. But the other thing is you are fortunate enough to be able to qualify for a VA loan. And the VA loan allows you to do 0% down. However, in a situation where it's an older home or a home with multiple offers, it is sometimes very difficult for me to get an agent to accept a VA.
right.
You know, and it's because agents aren't educated on the VA process. I think old school agents think that it's still something that the seller is going to be on the hook for money, etc. But in a multiple offer situation, I can't change their minds, right?
Right.
And those older homes on a VA appraisal are sometimes some things come up that are difficult to get past. So you guys met me at a like 1970s house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Government might not like that one.
Well, I think that one may have been closed, but we probably had some dry rot issues outside and some other things that may have been flagged for sure.
We should do another episode about that.
We should for sure, because I think it's an important one. Yeah, for sure. So that was kind of the thing that led us to that new construction, at least to start looking, right? And we may find things that are 1 or 2 years old that would be great too.
Right. The other thing that we talked about this yesterday, is that I think a lot of first-time home buyers that come out and say, well, we're not ready yet, our lease is up in 3 or 4 months, or whatever it is, they don't understand what you talked about, that if you go and you touch it, you're probably going to buy it.
Yeah.
So I think the advice that I gave you yesterday was, if your timeline is truly 6-9 months out, you have to stop going to look at houses.
Yeah.
Because if you go to that, but that's the deal. It's kind of like the puppy scenario, right?
Right.
We're thinking we want a puppy, and you go look at puppies.
Coming home with a puppy.
With a puppy. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with going to look at a car.
Yeah.
Oh, my car's a little older. I'm thinking about getting a new car. 12 hours later, after you've been handcuffed to a desk at a dealership, you have a new car. And it's the same thing with houses, that if you go and you look at them, you are going to buy one.
Yeah.
So what we kind of talked about was, there's 2 options. Option A, find a builder that is going to build something, and it's going to take that amount of time for you to have it built, or stop looking until you're 2 or 3 months away.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of first-time home buyers who are like, I want to be conservative and I want to do the right thing, and I don't want to pay the termination on my apartment, or all of those things, they still go and look at houses, and a week or 2 later, they have a contract on a house, and I go, but you told me this.
Yeah.
We went and looked at them.
We fell in love.
If you go to look at houses, you're going to buy one. That's how it works.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, sure, it's your decision. But yeah. Alluding to that earlier, being able to touch it, but not getting obsessed with it to where you end up making a potentially
an emotional decision.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So that was really good advice that you had there, just not overdoing it. Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, that was very valuable.
Well, I'm excited about this series, because now we've kind of talked just about the basics of getting to know each other, explaining the process, going through numbers, what those numbers look like. Now you have a really solid team who can help you in the whole process. So you can call them with 10 more properties. Next time, do like 15. Just for fun.
Hey, he says he likes numbers, right? I mean,
Call them with 15.
But you got to get them. If you get them in different counties, it makes it so I have to do more work. So
okay.
Try to stick to one county. So hopefully next time that we sit down and talk, it'll be that we're out kicking tires and really looking for that first home, right?
Right.
And we have saved our 6 months. I hope that you are the success story that gets to debunk our theory that most people can only save $1,200 a year, So I hope we get to debunk that theory, and that you guys get to be our poster people for buyers who can actually save and be ready to buy at the end of the year.
I mean, that simply comes down to prioritization. Do those nails really matter if you can put that money, week into savings sort of thing? I think right now the game plan we were paying off debt $1,000 a month and putting $500 into savings a month. Now that's just flip flopped, and now we're doing the 1,000 and then moving on to the 1,500 as well. So yeah, we're definitely going to hit that goal. It's just going to take some patience and not touching that account. So.
Yeah, awesome. All right. If you guys, do you have anything else you want to throw out there, or no?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to be able to get this process moving. We, like you mentioned, with the new construction, we did discuss that yesterday as well. Looking more so down the line, figuring out what home builders are breaking ground now. And that way we can more customize, what's being put in that house.
Right.
So jumping ahead of that, 6 to 9 months down the road, or like ahead of time, before they start building that home, that can be very valuable for new home buyers and stuff. So we're just going to be on top of that and, working towards that end goal.
Awesome.
And what kind of puppy is it?
Well,
Did you not get the puppy?
that's a loaded question.
Was it story?
Yeah, our dog. I was
to just look.
Yeah. That was also a date. That was also a date day. So,
What kind of dog is it?
So She's like a
she's lab. I mean, she's got some boxer in her snout and her broad chest, but then she also has the fur pattern of an Australian Shepherd, tail and hind dew claw of maybe Anatolian Shepherd. I'm not quite sure. She's just
she plays like she's an angel.
Captivating eyes. Well, she's an
You
angel
adopted
until
the
you
dog,
got
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yes,
she
she's
was the very first one we walked in.
You're like,
Right.
that's a
it,
lot.
it was a reverse catfish.
Just looking. Just looking.
It was a reverse catfish though, because I had also seen, what dogs were on the website and whatnot. And her picture made her look like she was going through leprosy or something. Like she looked
Did
rough.
not look like
And she was also pregnant with puppies at that point in time. So they didn't put an attractive picture up there. But then you meet her in person and she's just,
you fall in love.
yeah,
And then we
melts your heart.
Oh my goodness. All right, Dave, if they want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
You can call me 972-896-8790. And you?
And I'm at 214-662-9308. And remember, we can help you no matter where you live in the United States. We can find a perfect agent and a perfect lender to help you buy your first home.